You don't have a PowerPoint, do you?
No.
No.
Yeah. And you can hear us? Okay, great.
Can
good.
you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Very exciting to be here. We wanted to be here for a few years. Special thanks to Berlin Seed. It's our favorite seed store. I know spring has arrived because we make a big trip out here. We're about 2 hours away, so it's a wonderful trip to make. Another thing is superb canning. We've bought our sleeves of lids. Make sure that you guys do too.
Buy your canning jar lids here, ladies. They are about half what they are in the store.
So we're Shawn and Beth Dougherty. We're in Toronto, Ohio, not Toronto, Canada. For 40 years, we have been doing some sort of homesteading. This is our 40th year of marriage. So we have 8 wonderful children.
Thank you. Come by our booth. You'll see our oldest, big and handsome, and his beautiful wife.
That's right. So what we have been doing for 40 years is some sort of homesteading. And what we were looking for was, how did Grandma and Grandpa do this before there were feed stores, before there was grocery stores? Surely they had a way of doing that. And that's been kind of our journey, is how do we go back to that? Not in a historic, not in a museum sort of way, but how can we get back to that? And we looked and looked and looked for the book that would tell us how to do that, and we never found that book. So in 2016, we wrote that book. So we encourage you to, we do have a booth over in Tent C.
No, Tent D.
Tent C. No, we're in Tent C. We're in one of the tents over there.
When you come by the tent, when you come by the table, tell us which one of us was right. Because he'll forget.
So in any event, that is a great book to get you started at learning how to do this without a lot of inputs. Since then, we have written a number of follow-up books, short books, and now we're working with Chelsea Green on a whole series of deeper books. That first one's coming out in November, and it's going to be just on the dairy cow, and we're very excited about that one. Our mission is that there be a million little farms just like ours all over the country. It would transform our country. We need that independence, okay? When COVID happened, it did not happen to us. And in order to make that happen, that's what we do, is we speak all over the country, trying to encourage you, trying to give you ideas. That's why we're also at our booth throughout. We won't be here tomorrow. We had a previous engagement. We'll be here all day today, and come over and ask us any questions or talk to us about what we do. We also answer emails. So our website is One Cow Revolution, and on that it has our email, and we love to help people that are starting to struggle, getting out on the ledge, to get you back off that ledge. So don't give up. Stay in this, and when you run into a problem, contact us.
Natural farming works. So if you hit a roadblock, we've made so many mistakes, we probably already made that one. Just send us an email.
So let's consider, why do we homestead? Food is obviously one of the things that we're really looking for when we're homesteading. We want the security. We discovered that through COVID, that security is not necessarily there. We also want safe food. We're watching what Big Ag is doing, and we're saying, I don't think that food is the kind of food I want. Okay, we think, well, I'll go to the farmer's market, or I'll go to Walmart and get organic. Just letting you know, if it's at Walmart and it's organic, it's not organic, okay? So the only way that we know that you can be sure of your food is to do it yourself. Quality, we want delicious food, we want nutritional food. And we also want a lifestyle. We want a lifestyle with our children. We want peace, we want privacy, we want meaningful work, we want community. And there's beauty. We want to live in a healthy, beautiful world where there's abundance, where there's human collaboration with our environment. Those are all things that we're looking for when we start off homesteading. And we want it to feed us now without the necessity of spending lots of money on inputs. We want to become input free. We're giving a talk today at 2:30 on feeding the farm from the farm rather than inputs. We don't want to have to go to fertilizers. We don't want to have to buy in tons of feed. We don't want to use tons of equipment or infrastructure. In other words, the farm should get better and better at feeding us over time. But too often homesteads do just the opposite. That's where we all started. Lots of chores. We get more work than we expected. Instead of homegrown food, we have converted purchased feed. We're not saving money, we're spending it on infrastructure and animals and feed bills. And somehow the beauty and order doesn't live up to our hopes. Animals confined instead of in their natural settings, piles of bedding and manure, pounded land in some places, and rank overgrown weeds in others. They're not fulfilling the hope that we had or the expectations that we hope to have with our homestead. So what's the problem? We're going to suggest that a big part of the problem is the model in our heads has come from commercial ag. When people learned how to farm, their parents would sit down with the child, or it wouldn't be a structured, here's a manual. It was, watch me do this thing. That got broken. And unfortunately, so it got broken 2 generations ago in our world. It's getting broken in the Amish world as well. They're a generation behind us. That's why they're bringing us in to speak at their conferences. So what we need to be doing is, that's all been replaced with is commercial on the small. And we need to get rid of that and replace it with a natural method.
So what are we going to do about it? How do we take the homestead we're hoping for, or the homestead we already have that isn't doing what we want it to do? It's this mess of feed sacks coming in and manure piles and converted feed as food, right? Eggs that are converted feed, chickens that are converted feed. What are we going to do to fix it? First, it's really important to have faith. God created nature according to his beautiful, benevolent plan. He made it for us to be our home. This is going to work. It wasn't a bad joke that he was playing on us, let's put them in the garden and watch them fail. Nature makes sense. And we were put on the planet with the order to till it and take care of it. We're here to bring order to an already orderly nature. When we learn to observe and respect natural patterns, don't you suppose that's what our first parents were doing in the garden? We'll be able to see ahead. We've watched the natural patterns. We'll be able to see ahead and make plans so that God's beautiful and abundant nature gets more beautiful and more abundant. It's really important that we hang on to this faith. Because if we don't, we'll forget that we need to treat the world respectfully. That we need to look at what's growing, what's already happening on a piece of land, and let it teach us things. That way, when we run into a difficulty, we'll know we need to have patience. When our tomatoes have blossom and rot, we don't rush to the store saying, I knew this didn't really work, I'm going to get a chemical to put on my tomatoes. We wait, knowing that God made a good creation, knowing that we are here for a benevolent purpose, knowing that we are gifted to observe and take action. We wait, and we use our powers of observation and our powers of community so that we can wait and see what needs to happen. But most of us did not learn any of these patterns from our parents. We certainly didn't. We learned lots of good things, but not that. And if it's your job to go home to your garden and just sit and watch it and wait and struggle through, this is going to take a while and it's going to be a little discouraging. So it is really easier if somebody who's really, really persistent about making mistakes, that would be us, will tell you a little bit about what they've learned.
Okay, so here are 7 tips that we're going to give to you to get you started, no matter where you are. If you haven't got land yet or if you've got land, here's just 7 tips that we would suggest to you. First of all, farms can happen almost anywhere. Our land was 17 acres of trees upside of a hill, and it was considered by Ohio not suitable for agriculture. But that's where we ended up, and so we started working on that. One of the first things that you need to do if you're farming, whether you have your land or not, is get the pinup farm idea out of your head. Okay, don't think about the commercial farm, don't think about the things you've seen, we're going to start with nature. What does nature do? Okay, so get that.
Especially forget the beautiful online images you've seen of other people's picture-perfect farms.
That's right. Don't spend all your money on that purchase of land. Farms can happen almost anywhere, okay? And any piece of land out there, very rough, the edges and pieces, it needs us. We need to turn those into beautiful farms, okay? Owning land is highly overrated. Most of our farm, 30 acres of pasture, is a Franciscan convent up the road, 1.5 miles up the road. Don't think I've got to own this land, okay? So we have a wonderful relationship with our convent sisters, and we run the farm. So highly recommend that. Beg, steal, borrow land, find some land out there that nobody's using, and say, would you mind if I started putting a garden on there, or if I put my cow on there? Small is beautiful. The 10-acre farm, the 15-acre farm, the 20-acre farm, those are ideal sizes, okay? We think I've got to have a quarter section. That's what my dad had, what my grandfather had, 160 acres. You're overwhelmed with 160 acres. 10 acres, 15 acres, especially in this area, is very easy to feed your family with.
So, second tip, and I'm going to say this is like the most important thing to get right, is that God created nature with certain patterns. And farming in the last 100 years hasn't reflected those particularly accurately, so most of us don't know it. But God made nature with certain patterns. And if we'll follow those patterns, this is going to work better for us. Things are going to open up in front of us. Stuff will grow. We'll begin to see connections. Now, your standard homesteading pattern is the same almost everywhere, almost all the time, which is we buy some kind of land in the country, and then we put in a garden and we buy some chickens. It's like rule number 1. Put in a garden, buy some chickens.
And then buy lots and lots of feed.
And then buy lots of chicken feed and chicken litter and et cetera. If you're really persistent, you might get a few goats. You'll put them on alfalfa and sweet feed because you don't really like the taste of goat's milk. And then maybe you'll buy a pig. That's our standard pattern. Nature has a different pattern. This is God's pattern, and it works so well that after we've explained it to you, you'll realize that the history of humanity is primarily the history of this pattern. And we can learn this pattern so that we can feed our families and our homesteads without buying any feed or fertilizer. There are places that we can see this pattern. A vacant lot is a good example, or an abandoned pasture. How do you know it's a working pattern? Because it's stable. It stays the same from year to year. Sure, it goes through the 4 seasons, but the vacant lot that was, overgrown with goldenrod last year is overgrown with goldenrod this year, and next year maybe gradually it'll grow a lot of briars, but it's not changing very quickly. It's stable. It's working. Everything that lives there thinks it's working. What's its problem? Is not growing a whole lot of people food. We want to figure out how to get our land to grow people food. Now here's a spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about this in detail at 2:30, so we're going to go fairly quickly over some of these details in this talk. We'll be talking about keeping a family dairy cow and how you feed your whole homestead, people, animals, and soil, just from your homestead. And we do have a book coming out, Shawn said, in November that is on this specific topic. So here's the pattern. All biological energy, with exceptions that don't matter, is sunlight. The energy, Dr. Dois, Dallas? He said, our bodies run on ATP. ATP is our energy source. That comes from plants photosynthesizing, sunlight striking the leaves of a plant. That's where we're going to get it. It's where all the living things that you're ever going to encounter get it. Now, we can't photosynthesize, so we rely on plants to do it for us. And they need to do it pretty frequently because we like to eat 3 times a day. And if we look out at nature and say, where does nature do the most photosynthesizing, the most of the time, in ways that repeat themselves, in other words, if it photosynthesizes now and we harvest it, it'll do it again tomorrow, that's grass. 40% of the land mass of the planet is some kind of grassland. It is a biodiverse, largely perennial or self-sowing annual community of non-woody plants that when it grows will repeat itself if it's cut off. So you've got volunteer, always there, endlessly harvestable, biodiverse energy source right out there. It's growing out here on the lawn, it's growing in the fields you passed. But we get back to that original problem, which is it's not people food. Why isn't it? Because of grasslands, 90% of a plant, a grass plant, is cellulose. It's a little bit different for different plants, but we're going to say between 85 and 95% of those plants is the complex carbohydrate called cellulose. Now, we eat complex and simple carbohydrates. We call them sugars and starches. So why can't we digest cellulose? Because cellulose requires a special enzyme, and it isn't in our guts. We don't digest it. What digests cellulose is microbes, things like fungi and bacteria in the soil, which is why when you mow your lawn and you don't pick up the clippings, when you come back in a week, they're gone because they broke down because the soil bacteria broke them down and turned them into soil, right? You don't make cellulase, so you can't digest cellulose. Guess who can? Ruminants, right, cows. There is a huge class of animals with 4 legs, usually split hooves, and a 4-chambered stomach called ruminants. First chamber of the stomach is called a rumen. All you farmers out there already know this. And in that chamber of a ruminant stomach, there are the bacteria that can break down cellulose. Remember the ATP that formed in the leaves from the sunlight, and you can't get at it because you can't break down cellulose. A cow can do it for you. The bacteria in her gut can do it for you. So can a sheep, a goat, an antelope, a buffalo. I'm going to recommend cows for around here, and we're going to use the word cow from now on. But what we mean is something that can reach that 90% of energy and turn it into food energy. So have I gone on too long,
Nope,
boss?
you're perfect.
Okay. He's my timekeeper.
So we have grass, and God has given us this grass, and the grass is free, and if you take care of your grass, and Beth's going to talk a little bit more about that, it will keep coming back and getting better and better and better. So I put a ruminant on it, and what I've done for my ruminant is I've matched my ruminant to the pasture that I have. So if it's woody and briery, I've got a goat out there, and then when it's eaten all that, I get the goat off the farm just as fast as I can.
He doesn't like goats. Come see me if you like goats.
Okay. But then grass is going to come in, and then I'm going to put a cow out there, I'm going to put a sheep out there, and I have 2 options. I can do a one-time harvest, or I can do a twice daily harvest of the best food that there is in the world. And anybody who tells you that raw milk is dangerous or any of those kinds of things, they are crazy. Okay?
Are we going to talk about that?
No,
okay.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it at 2:30.
Okay, 2:30,
Yes.
come by and we'll explain why that's the case.
That's right. So if that's the case, and everybody who used to farm knew this. You didn't have a farm without a dairy cow. Everybody had a dairy cow, okay? But somehow that's fallen out. And why is that? What is it about that? Why don't we all have dairy cows on our land? Well, first of all, it's a big animal, okay? And we get scared of big animals, okay? We're going to go into this a little bit more at 2:30, but I'm just going to tell you, a dairy cow is a pussy cat, an absolute pussy cat. If you get a dairy cow, she will become an animal that you love better than your dogs or cats. You will have a wonderful relationship with it. So don't let that. Now, too much work. It's not convenient. I don't have any of my freedom. You're on a stinking homestead. Okay? That's what we do. We love our land. We love to be here. We want to have good food. We want this to get better. There is no other way that we know of to improve your pastures than a ruminant on pasture. No other way, okay? There may be all kinds of tweaks. There may be all kinds of people come up with, but there is no other way. Raw milk will not kill you. We've already talked about that. And what about all that milk coming in? Milk feeds everything on the farm. That's the key. It is the jet fuel for your farm. And as that milk comes in, chickens love it. Pigs love it. It turns it into bacon. It turns it into eggs. It turns it into everything else. So everyone needs to really say, why don't I have a dairy cow? And then change your mind.
And at 2:30, we will go at some length into how keeping a grass-fed dairy cow is going to feed your whole farm. But I realize I actually have a little timer down here. It's counting down my
good.
seconds.
Oh, you do.
So this is really
That's
handy.
very nice, yes.
So we're going to move right on to point 4, which is about taking good care of your soil. We have kept dairy cows on nothing but grass for about 20 years. We've had dairy cows for 25 years. But we've kept them on nothing but grass for about...
And I am going to interrupt. We literally mean nothing but grass. Our cows have never had grain.
They
Never.
don't know what it is. We could leave a bag in the middle of the pasture, and it might take them, they might eventually take a bite and decide it was good, but they wouldn't know what to do with it at first. So we're going to tell you, you can keep your dairy animals on nothing but pasture, and that pasture is actually going to improve as you use it. Isn't that just like God? He says, I'm going to give you a gift, and if you use it right, it'll be better tomorrow. And the next day and the next day. Think about marriage, like we're a gift, right? Most of the time. But if we treat each other right, we're a better gift tomorrow. And your pastures are like that. But this requires that we be patient and observant and notice what are the natural patterns for making pastures under grazing animals get better. Do I explain those?
Yes, a little bit about rotation.
So in conventional grazing, barbed wire was invented in, I think, 1886. Cheap way to get rid of half your employees. You throw spiky wire around a piece of ground, you put water in the middle, you turn your animals loose, and you say, okay, now I don't need herdsmen, right? Only what happens in conventional grazing is that animals get lazy and they start to feel very safe. Now in nature, if you are a grass-eating animal, you don't have sharp teeth, you don't have sharp claws, you hang around with all your friends, you taste good. Animals with long, sharp claws and teeth that want to eat you come around. So you gather together with all your buddies, and you point your horns outward, and you're okay, because you eat what you're standing on. Only if you're standing with all your buddies and you're eating what you're standing on, you're also defecating, urinating, and dying in this place. You need to keep moving, right? You put 100 cows in a group, and hold them tight, they better be migratory because in 24 hours, there's nothing left to eat. With conventional grazing, we got rid of their predators. We put fence around them so we weren't worried they'd wander off. Now they don't have to bunch with their buddies. So they walk around. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Looks natural to us now because we're used to it. You see a bunch of cows spread out, and everybody's eating your favorite plant. 3 days from now, that favorite plant has started to regrow. It's young and tender. She eats it again. And again and again and again, with the result that they graze out their favorite species. They graze out they're like any wild animal. They're looking for the most nutrition the fastest. That's a good safety mechanism. So they're going to eat the sweetest, the tenderest, the most available nutrients, and they're going to leave other stuff that is good for them and they need, but doesn't have quite as much pleasure involved with it. And after a while, they've eaten it all out, and the other stuff that they should have been eating has gotten big and woody and unpalatable, and that's why you see those pastures that look like golfing greens with little clumps of weeds or brush in them. Am I still good?
Yep, you can go a little further.
Just a little bit? Okay. When grazing animals bunch to eat and keep moving, what happens is they're grazing off top growth. That has one immediate beneficial effect, which is that the new growth points for that plant, here's your grass plant and it's big and bushy. The new growth points are down at soil level. So right now they're shaded. As long as the top is there, they're shaded. They can't see sun, they can't start photosynthesizing. But when the animals come and graze it off, now the new growth points for more plant can see the sun and they can regrow. So that's one benefit. The animals that we're grazing have eaten a lot of it and urinated and defecated there, so we know we fertilized it. Underneath the soil surface, we've actually added more organic matter than we added on top, because the root mass of that plant is actually it's bigger than the aerial parts, the above ground parts, and when the plant is grazed or mowed, the root mass dies back. A bunch of it dies back because there's not enough photosynthesis going on above to feed those roots. They die back. What does that do? It leaves a ton of organic matter in the soil to feed microbes, worms, insects, fungi, to give us that living soil that the previous speaker was talking about. This is a way that we don't have to know all of our chemistry to get a living soil, get our soil alive and working for us. Am I supposed to say anything else?
That's good. That's good.
There we go.
So this is a recap, okay? You've got grass. God has created this wonderful world where he is going to keep giving you grass, okay? And if you use it well, if you're rotationally grazing your animals on it, it will keep coming back. And if you don't do a one-time harvest, but do a twice-daily harvest, that milk bucket is going to keep refilling. It's magic. It's really fabulous. And then you're going to take that, and Beth's going to talk about it in a minute, and you are going to feed everything else with it. So this magical bucket, this goose that lays the golden egg, don't kill it. Bring it onto your farm and keep it going.
I'll just add here that I like steak, and that dairy cow that we're milking every day will have a male offspring every second year, and that's where you're going to get your meat harvest as well.
And it's going to manure your pastures and make them better. So, tip number 5, gardening. Gardening is how you're going to help feed yourself. We're going to have this milk that's going to be coming in, and then you're going to use gardening to help feed yourself and your animals. So here are some things that we would say about gardening. First, grow what will grow, okay? Too often we're trying to grow something that doesn't grow in our area. How am I going to find out? I'm going to talk to the best gardener that I know in my area. I'm going to use them as a mentor, and I'm going to find out. Now, we're from Oklahoma and Texas. We love okra. So we still grow okra, even though in Ohio it doesn't grow very well. It's a struggle. Yes.
If you're good at growing okra, please come by Tent D and talk to us.
That's right. Tent C, but in any event. Okay. Grow what you will eat.
What do I get if I'm right?
If you're not going to be right. Grow what you will eat. Okay? Don't grow these exotics and stuff. What did you?
My mom used to grow rutabagas every year, and they sat on the counter because nobody would eat them. So don't grow them if you won't eat them.
Eat what you're going to grow. Don't leave it in the garden. Take the time to harvest. And store your surplus, okay? We have root cellar, we have the basement. We do all kinds of things to store that food, okay? So store what you're going to do, either as food or as food for animals. And this is, again, we're feeding the farm from the farm is the talk at 2:30. I'm going to tell you briefly, we have 3 favorite things that we grow not just for the animals. One of them is a tromboncino. Unfortunately, we don't have the seeds for those. It's a 5-foot necked squash, literally, okay? That neck is delicious. So as humans, we eat that, and then as it starts to go bad, we put it away.
It's hugely productive. It's a long-storing winter squash that also serves as a summer squash. There are others that would do that for you, so that's an example of something we grow a lot of.
We do have seed, and we're giving away seed at our table, so come over to our table and get some, for the Mangel Wurzel. Now, the Mangel Wurzel that's one of the things we always get from Berlin Seeds. They always have big bags of Mangel Wurzels. Mangel Wurzel, I think a lot of people use it for a deer plots. But it can be a 20-pound beet, okay? And it is fabulous. Pigs love it. Chickens love it. And one of the things that we're trying to find is crops that we don't have to do anything with to give it to the animal. At first, we thought we would have to chop up this beet. And then we said, no, let's just put it in there. And the chickens just peck it away. okay? So that's what we're trying to find, is things like that that grow easily, easy to harvest. We'll talk again more about that at 2:30. And another thing is sorghum. So we've been using sorghum as a chicken feed. So that works really well. And again,
we're handing out seeds for black broomcorn, which is a sorghum chickens like, at our booth. Okay, so point number 6. Nature never invites an animal into an ecosystem unless it can feed it. You ever see an animal wandering around an ecosystem and there's nothing for it to eat, vacant lot, the squirrels go and live there even though there are no trees? Nature doesn't invite an animal into the community unless it can feed it, and neither should we. Mostly what we do is we bring on animals we don't have feed for, and then we go buy feed for them, and that's what we're trying to get away from. So on your farm, you're not going to bring an animal until you already have the food to feed it, and that's a lot easier than it sounds. If you didn't buy dense woods for your farm, you already have some grassland. That's why we can bring the ruminant in first, because nature's growing feed for her right now. And if we bring her in, we can actually make it better just by feeding her. Where do pigs and chickens fit in a human food system? Why, when we are omnivores, we eat plants and animals, would we partner with other animals that eat plants and animals? If you think about what pigs and chickens eat in nature, or would eat if you let them into your kitchen, it would be exactly what you eat, only they eat the parts and conditions we don't eat, like stems, peels, rinds, cores, overripe, underripe. Until we have adequate pig or chicken food, we don't invite a pig or a chicken onto the farm. Do I keep going a little bit?
You're doing great.
So, during World War I and World War II, there was a poster that the War Department put out, right? And it said, be patriotic, keep 2 chickens per human in the household. Why? Because your kitchen wastes probably feed 1 or 2 chickens per person in the household. The healthier your diet, the healthier the chicken's diet. That means all that stuff you're scraping off plates, the outside leaves of the lettuce, the cores of the apples and so forth, those are all chicken food, and you can keep chickens on that. I will note here that we'll talk about how to raise the protein in their feed up so that they lay well at 2:30. But just remember, chickens and pigs eat what we eat, and we're not going to invite them onto the farm until we can feed them. Now, where are we going to get food for chickens, for pigs, or for more chickens than 2 per household? Well, your garden's already producing an awful lot of that. Probably the edge of the woods, probably your orchard, probably your berry patch, even your lawn are producing food for pigs and chickens because they're omnivores, but they can eat an awful lot of the parts we don't eat. Wastes, in fact. If you think about pigs and chickens as being the converters of our food stream wastes and surpluses into walking, reproducing protein, that image should give you an idea of what pigs and chickens are for. So as your garden gets bigger, as you plant crops like the ones Shawn was just talking about, root crops, easy to grow, like corn-type crops like sorghum or corn. As you're growing more of those, you are producing pig and chicken food, and you can begin to invite those animals onto the farm. Now, the number one way you can produce high-quality proteins and fats for your pigs and chickens, and you can do it in 12 hours. So we're going to come onto our homestead, and 12 hours from now, we're going to have some pig food, is get a milk cow. That's what pigs have been doing on farms for many, many centuries, is that when you milk a cow, if you don't happen to drink, your family doesn't happen to drink all her milk in a day, then you're going to have some surplus milk. And even if you say, well, I'll turn it into butter and cheese, okay, but then you're going to have buttermilk and whey, and you're not going to use those all up. Pigs are there to convert those surpluses into walking, reproducing protein.
So I'm just add to that one of the most important parts of being able to feed these other animals is limiting your stock numbers, okay? What you've got to do is look at your farm, and you've got to say, how much cow food, how much grass, how many forbs and stuff like that, do I have on my farm? You may say, I want 10 cows, but if you don't have 10 cows worth of food, don't bring 10 cows on. And that balancing act is that's what we were put in the garden to do, is be the balancers, be the manager, so that we only do that. And if I have X number of pig food or X amount of pig food, that's how many pigs I'm going to have. We go out and we buy 40 chickens and we put them all on there, and then we're buying feed. Limit to how much chicken food your farm gives you, and that's going to help you a lot in terms of not buying in inputs. Okay, seventh tip is make it sustainable. Okay, that's a big word, can go in a lot of different directions, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of these different directions. First of all, minimize shiny toys. I keep trying to convince my wife that I really need a four-wheeler that would go all over the farm and would do, and then
he knows this wouldn't work. Our farm is mostly at like a 30-degree slope, so he does not need a Polaris.
Okay. But I have to try.
You can see we're getting older and we need our exercise.
That's right. That's right. So infrastructure, okay? What the feed stores, what the hardware stores, what the farm stores, they're going to want to sell you all kinds of stuff, okay? But think minimally. One of the greatest things that happened to us is we did not have much money. So we didn't have the money to spend on all those things. So that limited us. So when we were starting to look at perimeter fence, well, what are we going to do? Well, we run 2 strands of hot wire. That's our perimeter fence. It's not 6 strands of high tensile, blah, 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 blah. Our water systems are primarily captured water and hoses. It is not underground, high pressure, blah, 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 blah. Those things are nice if you can do it, but man, those are expensive and they break too, okay? So think simple. Most people are overthinking the things that they need to do for their farm.
The first thing people say when we come on a farm for a farm consult is within the first 4 hours they'll say something like, "Thank you, you just saved me $20,000," because that was the list they had of things they thought they needed. You know, build a barn, put in your perimeter fence, and buy a tractor. And we come on and say, no, we can start a lot cheaper than that.
The second thing that we use, and this has to do with sustainability, is farms don't do cash very well. Farms feed people extremely well, and we eat better than anybody else we know. We eat better food, we eat more food, we have wonderful food, but if we were trying to turn this into cash, and that's what we try and do, we get the chickens, and then we start buying in feed, and then we say, oh, I'm going to sell some of these eggs because then that's going to offset the feed costs. It doesn't work. You're making pennies, okay? So let's just grow for us. Now, at some point, you may discover that your farm does something extraordinarily well. And ours actually does agritourism extraordinarily well. We had a B&B, and it makes good money because people want to see what we do on the farm. But until you figure out what your farm does well, just feed yourself and your family really, really well. And don't think that you can say, oh, well, I'm going to feed my whole community. It's a bigger job than what you think it is. Just feed yourselves and then a few extra people, okay? You can certainly do that, but don't try and make your farm pay your mortgage.
What happens when people move to homesteads is it's too easy to do this, right? I'm sitting at my desk job and I'm thinking, man, I really am tired of being here. I get an image of myself out in the country. Maybe I'm wearing bib overalls and a straw hat, and I'm interacting with cows and chickens instead of the guy at the water cooler that I don't like. And I think that's what I want. What I fail to do is think this is an economic choice as well. So I picture my bank account as staying exactly the same, and I think I'll go to the country and make the money I was making in the city, and I'll enjoy the process more. It's not going to work. It's just not. I mean, there are rare exceptions, but it's not going to work. And what you have to do is picture that your economy, your cash economy, is going to change on the farm because there's going to be so many fewer things you have to spend money on. And if we sat here and made you a list, it wouldn't be terribly convincing, but if you start doing it, it will be very convincing.
One of the things that I always think about is any money that I am spending to bring something onto farm is a dollar I have to bring from outside. So if I can eliminate that and just and start saying, that thing that I thought I needed, I wonder if the farm could provide that. or if my community could provide that. So we really suggest people thinking about what I don't need as opposed to all the things I do need. And is there a way that my farm could provide that? So we need to wrap up.
Okay, so
We can just-
feed soil, food storage, don't quit your day job. Security.
Well, we're gonna,
I
we
think
can't
we're
take
good.
questions. We don't have questions. But we will be over in tent C. And
And when you don't find us there, try D.
yeah, but we are over there, and we will be answering questions, and we will be handing out seeds to you, and we love to talk to you. And don't hesitate, truly, don't hesitate to email us. Don't
When you
send
have a
us an
problem.
email this long, but have a
Right.
question that you
Every
have in
once
your
in a while,
email.
I'll get one that says, I bought my land, now what do I do? Okay.
And
just-
we say,
right. Go
we
read
say,
a few books
that's
first,
right.
but-
Read our book and then start there. Okay. Thank you
you
very
very
much.
much.
And yes.